for the audio, or you can even watch back. Giving players all the props, or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk facts.
We're giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
Play it on the car ride, play it when you lounge. X and O, you know that we can hold it down. Shout out to my man Sammy, got it off the ground. And to all the listeners tuned in right now, got debates, analysis, and speculation. This is sports talk for the new generation. You know where to find us, got a reputation. Sick podcast, your #1 sports destination.
We're giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
S-I-C-K is the sickest podcast. Tune in for the audio, or you can even watch back. Giving players all the props, or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk back. S-I-C-K,
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 S-I-C-K.
All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
S-I-C-K is the sickest podcast. Tune in for the audio, or you can even watch back. Giving players all the props, or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk facts.
We're giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
Play it on the car ride, play it when you lounge. X and O, you know that we can hold it down. Shout out to my man Sammy, got it off the ground. And to all the listeners tuned in right now, got debates, analysis, and speculation. This is sports talk for the new generation. You know where to find us, got a reputation. Sick podcast, your #1 sports destination.
We're giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
S-I-C-K is the sickest podcast. Tune in for the audio, or you can even watch back. Giving players all the props, or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk back. S-I-C-K,
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 S-I-C-K.
S-I-C-K.
Turn up your volume. Because you're about to listen to The Sick Podcast. With Tony Marinaro.
55 seconds left in the penalty, a minute and 27 seconds left in regulation time. Boston 4, Montreal 3. Lafleur coming out rather gingerly on the right side. He gives it into Lemaire, back to Lafleur.
The sickest Montreal Canadiens podcast.
You're in the ball!
Sports entertainment like no other.
Rejoint, on lui fait perdre la rondelle, une passe devant. Et c'est le dégagement, et ce sera la victoire des Canadiens. Coupe Stanley pour les Canadiens. Leur 23e de l'histoire.
You found the dogs! John, you found the dogs! He found the dogs! And all together, they worked a young team to the top. And now, a 24th Stanley Cup banner will hang from the rafters of the famous Forum in Montreal. The Canadiens win the Stanley Cup!
Brought to you by Energy Transportation Group. Driven to be different. La Vida TV. Embrace your true nature. And Playground, your premier gaming destination. It's gonna be sick.
Welcome, everyone, Friday evening to the Sick Podcast. I'm Matt Ohayon, the Hebrew Hammer. As you can notice, there's no background behind me. This is what my wall looks like behind me when the Sick Podcast background is not up. Technical difficulties at the last minute did not allow for me to have the background up. Such is life. We roll with the punches here at the Sick Podcast. Okay, let's get down to business. So the Sick Podcast is brought to you by Energy Transportation Group. Energy Transportation Group is a leading full-service logistics provider serving all of North America, driven to be different. We're also brought to you by La Bitte TB Beer, brewed in Quebec and a winner of a dozen international awards. La Bitte TB offers quality microbrewery beers made with premium ingredients for everyone's taste. La Bitte TB. Embrace your true nature. Okay. Also, we're brought to you by Playground. So we got something very special this Saturday. So I'm going to ask Sammy and Yellow, thank you very much, to put that up. So we're brought to you by Playground. As you know, they're a big sponsor of the show. They're big fans of the show. So tomorrow, December 16th at 6 p.m., we're going to be hosting a live pre-game podcast. That's tomorrow at 6 p.m. It's going to be before the Habs take on the Islanders. Tony and the Sick team will be live at Playground for their grand opening gala. Come join us for a fun-filled night. That's located just over the Mercier Bridge, only minutes away from downtown Montreal. Playground. We're also brought to you by sportsbuffshop.com. Shop all your sports licensed lifestyle apparel, including hoodies, caps, and tees of your favorite teams from all major leagues at sportsbuffshop.com. Use code SICK10 for 10% off all their items. All right. So let's talk Habs. Let's get down to brass tacks with our guest, as he usually joins me every Friday, Mr. Stu Cowan of the Montreal Gazette. Stu, how we doing?
I'm doing well. It feels like April out there instead of December. It's beautiful.
I know, it was amazing. I went on a 10-kilometer run. I said, I'm not feeling great this morning, but 6 degrees in the middle of December, you guys, it's a crime not to get out there.
Oh, yeah, I walked my dog this morning, like 5 Celsius, sunny, gorgeous. Yeah,
it's amazing. It's funny because at work, people are like freaking out that they're not going to get a white Christmas, and this is like a dream come true for me.
The older I get, the more I hate winter, and the more I dream of a green Christmas every year. So
that's it. And I could not be happier looking outside my window this morning. So let's get down to it. The Canadiens, again, another weird week of scheduling. It feels like people, like everyone around the Canadiens, can't really get into a rhythm. It feels like the Canadiens can't get into a rhythm. It feels like, podcasters can't get into a rhythm about the Canadiens because there's not constant action. So
same with us on the Habs beat. I mean, like Sunday night games, like that's almost never at the Bell Center, and Monday night games. I mean, usually the Habs are Saturday, Tuesdays, Thursdays at the Bell Center. It's been a really strange schedule. The one thing that will remain the same is that they're gone now after Saturday for the Christmas break, and we won't see them again until early January. And it's a road trip that always has a negative effect on this team in the standings.
Yeah, at least definitely in recent years. So this is where we always say, right? Like the Canadiens are really hovering around like the 20 to 25 mark right now in the league standings. this is where we really find out what type of team the Canadiens are going to be, whether it be because of injuries, because of talent, or the lack thereof. This is where we see where they're at the end of this trip is, generally speaking, where they will finish at the end of the season, barring some type of miracle. But Stu, how do you see how important is the next few weeks for the Canadiens?
Well, it's really important. Pat Hickey, our buddy Pat, wrote a good story on Hockey Inside Out, just about the record over the holidays in recent years, and it's not very good. The Canadiens are bringing in Cirque du Soleil this year, or Evenko, I should say, or companies owned by Jeff Molson, and make a lot of money off of Cirque du Soleil concerts or shows through the holidays. And previous years, it's been the circus, or there's always something that comes in, or Stars on Ice or something like that. And it means the Canadiens are gone for an extended period, and it really does hurt them in the standings. It's difficult because it's a busy time of the year for just about everybody. So you have guys going on the road. I said after Saturday, they're on the road. They'll come back for a couple of days over Christmas, but the next thing it's 7 games are on the road. I know last year I did that road trip, and they played on the 23rd in Dallas, and there was a snowstorm. The Canadiens had problems getting their flight out after that game. I believe they had to stay over. I was talking with Jake Allen about it after practice this morning. They didn't get home until about 6 o'clock in the morning on Christmas Eve. And with a guy like Jake Allen with kids, it's not like you get to sleep. And then they were back on the road again on the 27th. So it's they're on the road. They come back briefly for Christmas. I guess their wives or whatnot, the ones that have kids, are in charge of the Christmas shopping and everything else. And then come home for a couple of days and you head back out on the road again. So it's difficult for many reasons, because there's a lot of stuff going on off the ice for these guys with their families, obviously, and then they're not home, and it shows in their record on on these trips. It's a really difficult going on the road for that long at any time or any stretch of the season is difficult, but doing it over the holiday period is even more difficult.
Yeah, and that's the cruel thing about the NHL. And I guess the way to spin it is that it's a really important trip, because you could really learn a lot about the team you have. And because it's not like, in terms of adversity, they're not really going through anything, they're going through real life. That's life. Like when you're without your family on the holidays. So you could really see the mental fortitude of the team, and it could be a great learning opportunity. If Martin St. Louis wants to take that from me and spin that, just give me the credit for it, please. But it is an important time of year, because this is, again, like we said, this is generally, they could have a hot start like they did last year, but then this trip, it just brings everything to a halt, and it just, you come back down to reality, it seems.
Yeah, it's not as bad this year as it was last year. As I mentioned, last year they played in Dallas on the 23rd. This year they play in Chicago on the 22nd, and then they'll fly home right after that game. So they'll be home on the 23rd, and then they don't play again until the 28th in Carolina. So I imagine they'll fly to Carolina probably the morning of the 27th. So it'll give them 3 or 4 full days at home with their families, which would be a lot better than last year. And then, back on the road again, and they're off to, they play New Year's Eve. They play the 28th in Carolina, and then the 30th in Florida, and then New Year's Eve they're in Tampa. So it's a hectic schedule. It really is. And it's tough.
Yeah. And you know what, though, is that things are, I don't want to say they're turning a corner, but it feels like at least the Canadiens with the players that got injured and they weren't season-ending injuries, some are starting to come back, namely David Savard. We spoke about him last week. His first game back, he scores a goal. And, the team actually looks quite good on defense. So, I mean, that must just show how important his presence is on the blue line.
It is. I mean, and just going back to the road thing, one good thing about the Canadian, or for this road trip, maybe, is that they're 6-4-2 on the road this season, and they're 6-9-2 at home. So they're a better team on the road. So maybe it will help them. But for David Savard, I wrote a column the other day, and he's an really important part of this team, especially with so many young defensemen. Caden Guhle has spoken with me often just about how much David Savard has really helped him become the good young defenseman that he is. And, I asked Marty St. Louis a few days ago just about, David Savard is not fast. As I wrote, he's built more like one of those world's strongest men guys than he is a hockey player. But Marty said to me, well, define quick. And he said his feet might not move that quick, but his brain moves really quick. Like he makes quick decisions and he makes good plays with the puck, and block shots like crazy. I think last year, I believe he was in the top 10 in block shots last season, despite missing about 20 games with injuries. He does the little things right, and he's a great guy to have in the locker room. The players love him. Like he's really funny. Jaden Struble, I was talking with him yesterday, and Struble sits beside Savard in the locker room and said he's like a dad. He's like a father figure to these guys, but he's really funny and jokes around. And when young defensemen make a mistake, on the ice, he's the first guy to tap them on the pads when they get back to the bench. Don't worry about it. Move on. Don't worry about the next shift. Don't worry about that. Put it behind you. So it fills a lot of important roles for the Canadiens, which is why, as I wrote, I think he'll be a valuable commodity for Kent Hughes ahead of the NHL trade deadline. I don't know how much they'll get for him. I don't know if they're going to get a first-round pick for him. They did get that for Ben Sherratt. But I think, David Savard, I think, would be a valuable guy on a team going into the playoffs with a young defense core that just needs a guy who can be a veteran presence on and off the ice, a father figure, like I mentioned, can also kill penalties, can block a lot of shots. So it's going to be interesting to see. He has one more year left on his contract with a cap hit of $3.5 million. He's 33 years old, but I think there will be interest in him at the trade deadline. And from a Canadiens perspective, it would make sense to move him, even though he's very valuable, just because they need to open up some spots for some of these younger defensemen. You have Arbor Jacki playing in Laval now. Jordan Harris is hurt. He took part in some of the practice today. You've got players coming up through the farm system. You've got Reinbacher, who they drafted. You got Lane Hudson, Logan Mayu. So there's a lot of young defensemen coming up. And it'll be interesting to see what Kent Hughes can get in return for David Savard, because I don't think David Savard will still be here after the trade deadline.
So that's a key thing for me, is when you said what the Canadiens could get for David Savard, because I think that'll really determine, whether he'll still be here or not. Post
Kent Hughes won't give him away. Kent Hughes won't give him away for nothing. That's the thing. Kent Hughes has been patient with all the moves he's done, and that's why we still have 3 goalies with the Canadiens, because he's not going to give away. He's not going to put Caden Primo on waivers and risk losing him for nothing. So he's been patient through 29 games now with 3 goalies, and he will be patient with David Savard. If he doesn't get what he thinks is full value for David Savard, he won't trade him. Like I'm not guaranteeing it, but I think that he will. I think there will be enough value that Kent Hughes will make a trade. But if there's not, he'll keep David Savard. And as I said, he has one more year in his contract, and maybe he's more valuable at the trade deadline next year when he doesn't have that additional year on his contract that a team would have to take on also.
Well, that's it, because, like you said, Kent Hughes doesn't have a tendency to give players away like that. Also, the Canadiens have 11 picks this year. Yeah. So, if you can't get a first-round pick or a second-round pick, what's an extra third round pick going to do for you this year? I think he adds more value to your team and being around the young core than, acquiring a third round pick.
What I can see Kent Hughes doing, if the best draft pick option he gets as a return would be like a third round, Kent likes getting guys who were high first round picks or second round picks 2 or 3 years ago who haven't worked out with the team they're with. Kirby Dach, perfect example, and bringing those guys in. Emil Heinemann's another guy like that. He's got quite a few guys he's brought in that circumstance since he's taken over. Alex Newhook's another guy. So I could see him if it's not going to be like the first or second round pick. I can see him looking for a 21-year-old, 22-year-old, maybe a young forward. They need help at forward. Maybe a guy who has a history of goal scoring. Who hasn't worked out the way the team that drafted him hoped he would, and Kent Hughes hoping that a fresh start with Marty St. Louis as a coach can help him. So I think it might be even more likely that he goes that angle or that route rather than the draft pick, unless it is a first-round pick. But, when Tampa Bay got David Savard before their cup run in 2021, I guess it was, they got Tampa gave up a fourth-round pick. So it's going to be interesting to see. But as I said, I think David Savard fills a valuable role with the Canadiens, and I think he could fill a valuable role. A team like New Jersey, for example, if New Jersey's, they're fighting for a playoff, so they got a lot of young defensemen there. And a guy like David Savard, not only as a role model and a sort of leader and a father figure, he can also take away some of those really tough penalty killing minutes from a younger defenseman. And the blocking shots and all that stuff. So that's why I think it would be a good fit, especially with a team with a young defense, or another team with a young defense core that will be going to the playoffs.
You know what team I think, like any team would be, I think, happy to have a player like that if they were going on a cup run. A team that I think would benefit like so greatly from having a David Savard, a guy who's been there, done that, tough as nails, especially in the playoffs. It's it's funny because it's probably not going to happen, and if it does, that price tag is going to be a steep one. Be the Toronto Maple Leafs.
I was just going to say it. You're going to say Toronto Maple Leafs, and it's and the thing with Savard, I mean, with the Canadians right now, he's been playing on the top pairing with Mike Matheson, right? On a good team with in the playoffs of Stanley Cup hopes, he's your third pairing defenseman, right? He's a number 5 or a number 6. But yeah, I mean, a guy like he would be a good fit on a team like Toronto, but with $3.5 million on his cap, I don't know if there's not that much left on it, obviously, by the trade deadline. But David Savard's a guy who he's the type of defenseman that the Leafs could use. And both on and off the ice, and like all the defensemen on the Canes to a man when you talk to them. And Struble was pretty funny when I spoke to him yesterday. As I said, he sits right beside him in the locker room, and he said, "I said, did you get a chance to know him at training camp?" He said, "I really didn't know him at all when I came in, when I got called up, but sitting beside him, he says he just makes you feel right at home." And he says he's funny, and he says he's really good. He said on the bench, the defense are really formed a strong bond together, all these guys. And he said Savard's the leader of that group. He's the one on the bench that sort of keeps all the defensemen together and on the same page. And he's like having a second defense coach behind the bench also, along with Robida.
And it's just, you just look at how he played so well in that 2021 Cup run, and he played so well for Tampa Bay the year before when they won the Cup. Like this, and you just think of the Leafs, like they just crumble under the pressure time and time again, whether it be in the first round or in the second round. That's a guy who, like when you're looking around on the bench, who are the Leafs going to look to this year in the playoffs? If they don't make a move, they're going to look to Ryan Reeves. Ryan Reeves probably won't even be on there.
You can't dress Ryan Reeves in the playoffs. I mean, it's like shorthanded when you put him on the ice. And David Savard's not a fighter. He's not going to fight. But he's not fun to play against. He's a big, strong man. As I said, he's built. No, he looks like a lumberjack. You see him in the locker room. He's a massive man. He's built like a world's strongest man guy. So he's, when you're playing a 7-game series and you have him checking you in front of the net and him leaning on you on the boards and he wears guys down. And that's why he's effective. He's in the playoffs. Tampa Bay, that's why Tampa Bay went and got him, and Tampa Bay ended up winning the Cup. They might have won the Cup without David Savard anyway because that team was so good. But he's a piece that Tampa Bay obviously felt they needed, and he filled the role. I think he averaged only like 12 minutes a game maybe during the playoffs, but he was even in plus minus for what that's worth through I think like 20 of the 23 games. Blocked a lot of shots. Just a solid, as I said, on a really good team. If David Savard's your number on your third pairing, it's a pretty good guy to have there.
Yeah, so it'll be interesting. That's one thing to look forward to. I think the trade deadline, if it's like last year, it's going to be in March again.
It's March 8th, I think, or something like that. Yeah.
They don't got him. They don't have to move on him this year, like we said. But
yeah, that's it. If or maybe in the offseason. But I think he's more of a trade deadline pickup. But as I said, if Kent Hughes doesn't get what he wants or what he thinks he's worth this year, he'll wait.
I'd be surprised, though. I'd be surprised if he doesn't get what he wants this year.
I agree. The
market out there, for a defenseman is insane.
Yep, and Kent Hughes will say, okay, so you're not willing to give up a first, second round pick. How about this prospect? How about this guy? How about this guy? And add another guy in that 21, 22, 23 age group to this roster that is mainly made up of guys in that group.
Yeah, and he would be the one to, do an NHL type, an NHL video game type of deal where it's like, okay, he'll have in the back of his mind a player that he wants, that he knows he's going to need to give up some draft capital to get, kind of like Alex Newhook. He gave up 2 first-round picks to get him. Yeah, okay, I'm going to acquire this prospect with this second-round pick, and then I'm going to package 2 second-round picks for this. Yeah,
or David Savard and one of the picks for whatever, if the prospect's a guy you feel is worth that. Yeah.
Yeah, because it's just the asset management on the guy. It's just, it's unbelievable what he does. So David Savard has been, injecting some life into the lineup of the Canadians. I mean, it's small sample size, but he did. this has got to only benefit Caden Guhle, who, there's nothing really to knock on him.
Yeah.
But he hasn't been himself.
He's been okay.
Exactly.
But he has been really good, and he had been really good for a long time. It's easy to forget how young he is. He's a young kid, and David Savard has had a huge impact on him, as I said. So for Guhle, he's he's a young guy. There's going to be ups and downs. It's amazing how well he has played for a guy so young. He's going through a bit of a rough stretch, but he's too good to stay in that for a long time. I mean, every player in the NHL goes through ups and downs during the season. The better players, the downs last less than they do for some of the players who aren't as good. But Caden Guhle, he's a full package. I mean, he's going to be a good very good NHL defenseman, in my opinion, for many, many years to come. So I'm not overly concerned about the little bump that he's gone through recently.
Yeah, and also it's just not not out of the ordinary. It's not out of the blue. Like a lot of Canadians players are really going through it these days. I mean, how many times? Well, yeah, exactly. On the forward end of it, like you look at Nick Suzuki, Cole Caulfield. Those guys really are big, flashing. Like this is, not a lot of people are really signaling it yet, but this is a big problem for the Canadians if they want to win some games and if they want to, be that fun team. They're going to play that fun brand of hockey. You need these guys to get rolling.
Well, they've got 23 goals from their defensemen, which is second in the NHL. It's one behind Colorado, but their forwards are last among forwards in scoring goals. Sean Monahan has 9 goals to lead the team. There's 72 or 74 players in the NHL with more than 9 goals. That's a lot of guys. Than the leading goal scorer for the Canes. I have it in front of me because I did the research earlier today for a column I was writing. Dvorak has no goals in 17 games. Gallagher has no goals in the last 15 games. Guhle has no goals in the last 12 games. Slavkovsky has no goals in the last 11 games. Caulfield has no goals in the last 7 games. He only got 7 goals all season. That's a lot. That's a good chunk of your forwards. And then you throw in, Slavkovsky with 2 goals all season, Evans with 2 goals all season, Anderson with 1 goal all season. That's 3 forwards who have played in every game, and combined they have 5 goals. That's the same amount that Mike Matheson scored, and Justin Barron. They both have 5 goals each as the leading scorers on the defense. So the forwards just aren't getting offensive production out of their forwards. And Marty St. Louis spoken about it a couple of times this week. He said guys just aren't going inside enough. Guys aren't willing to go inside to where you need to score goals. And he used a couple of different examples from his playing days. He talked about Dave Andreychuk and Peter Forsberg, and 2 different types of players. But he said Dave Andreychuk wasn't a good skater. He was a big guy, but he just knew when to go inside, how to get open for a chance. And he scored over 600 goals in the NHL. And then Forsberg was a really skilled player, and he got inside. And Marty St. Louis was talking about how Cole Caulfield, and I think we've all seen this watching, he's become predictable, shooting from the same spots all the time, and he's got to get inside more. He's got to figure out ways. And as St. Louis said, you can't stay inside all the time, but sometimes when you do go inside, when you pop back out, it gives you a better scoring chance than if you're just on the perimeter too much. So they have too many forwards that are playing on the perimeter, and then Brendan Gallagher doesn't play on the perimeter. He's in there all the time, but he's just, one of the recent games, he had 10 shots on goal, and he's sort of just can't score right now. He's been unlucky, but he's always on the inside. But they need more guys to play sort of a Brendan Gallagher type of game and get inside and go into those dirty areas more often. And get, as St. Louis said, get deflections, get puck going in off your shin pad, getting rebounds, getting those kind of things. And just not enough of the forwards are doing that right now. And that's a big reason why they're not scoring.
Well, and to me, listen, I don't think this is a shootout loss is not cause for concern, especially again. It's crazy how finally the Penguins. It looks like they hit that wall, Yeah. But anyways,
well, St. Louis really liked the game against Bergeron. He said he really liked the way the team played, and I can see why. He said they played really well.
But when it's like you look at the shootout itself, and it's just like you look at the players who didn't score, and you'd think that is a prime opportunity to like bust a slump. Like what a stage, against the Pittsburgh Penguins. Sidney
That's
Crosby.
why St. Louis put Josh Anderson out there, right? He was hoping it would light a fuse under him, and then Josh couldn't score. And Anderson spoke yesterday with us about how much he appreciated St. Louis giving him that opportunity, and the fans a big ovation for him. He's got one goal all year, and it's into an empty net. But that you're exactly right. I mean, that would have been huge for him to score. And that when mentioning David Savard, once you get that far down, maybe give David Savard a chance to shoot that. He's
getting Jonathan Kovacevic.
Maybe Savard could do that toe drag move that he does every once in a while, or try something like that. But or Kovacevic, yeah. But it's amazing what 12 shooters for each team. But as you said, I mean, St. Louis was happy with the way the team played that game, and he thought the way they played puts them closer to breaking out of their offensive problems. We'll see tomorrow night against the Islanders, but you can't have like half of your forwards going, 6 between 6 and 17 games without scoring a goal. It's way too much. And your leading scorer has 9 goals, 29 games into the season.
And it's just how long can they say, oh, it's coming. They're playing well. Like, you need results. It's the same thing at a certain point with a player like Uri Slavkovsky. Like, he's playing better hockey. There's no doubt about it. But like,
2 goals.
It's got to materialize at a certain point.
Yeah, he's got 2 goals. He's got no goals in the last 11 games, playing on the number 1 line the last 5 games, I think it is now, 5 or 6, and on the number 1 power play unit. Still stuck on 2 goals. I mean, he is 19. And we are seeing progress about him being more of a physical presence on the boards and winning more puck battles. But the production is just not there. He's not alone. There's just 2 goals for a guy who's played 29 games this season. And then Jaden Struble gets called up. He's played, I think it's 11 games now. He's already got 2 goals. Defenseman.
Yeah. It's just it really.
And a defenseman is not known for goal scoring.
But that's it. And like these graphics that go online, like, listen, they mean nothing. But players see that. You know what I mean? Like, when you're going through a slump, things can just pile on you. And like, from a mental standpoint of it, it's like, you're gonna see that tweet that Jaden Struble has as many goals as you do this season, and he played in half the amount of games and gets half the amount of opportunities. You're gonna see it eventually.
And you'll see the tweets too about his Corsi or his expected goals or is this or is that or is this or is that. At the end of the day, you're not scoring. Whatever the fancy stats say, at the end of the day, you're not scoring. You've gone, for Brendan Slavkovsky's gone 11 games without a goal. Maybe the analysts, a lot of the analytics might look good, but at the end of the day, you got to put the puck in the net. And the most important stat is whoever scores the most goals win, and the Canadians aren't scoring enough goals to win that many games. And it's as we mentioned, it's only going to get harder, or maybe it'll be easier on the road because they are better on the road than they are at home. It's hard to.
Well, that's it. There's less pressure.
Yeah, exactly. Less pressure, maybe, or whatever it is, but. They got it. I think they're ranked 28th in offense. They're averaging like 2.7 goals a game. It's just not enough. And
it's like you got a game against the Islanders, and the Jets look good. The Minnesota is starting to come on. Like I saw a stat that Matthew Boldy has. I think he doesn't lead the NHL, but he's in the top 5 of NHL players in goals in the month of December. Like, you're going to be running into some tough customers along the next few games. Not that any team isn't a tough customer unless you're in basketball and it's the Detroit Pistons. But, like, you're running into some tough opponents here, and opponents that generally have given you the fits in years past. And it's just, there's no sign of something breaking out other than I liked our game. Oh, we played well. It's coming. Well, it's been coming for how many games now? Yeah, I mean, they're missing Kirby Dach and Newhook. The injuries have taken a toll. But somebody had an interesting tweet after the Pittsburgh game. Sidney Crosby's 36 years old. He's still performing. Like, he's still more than a point a game. And the tweet was basically saying, like, Montreal has not had a player like that since. The last 2 superstars in Montreal were both goalies, Carey Price and Patrick Roy. Like, Montreal fans haven't had a star player that wasn't a goalie for so long. It's, so long. We've talked about this before. The last Canadian player to finish in the top 10 in NHL scoring was Matt Snaslin in 1986. That's a friggin' long time ago. Mm-hmm.
at some point, like when to be a real contending team, you have to have that star, that guy, the guy, right? He's the guy. Sidney Crosby is still carrying the Pittsburgh Penguins after all these years, and he's still producing. You're talking about producing. I don't know what his analytic numbers are with Crosby, but he's putting points in, he's scoring, he's setting up goals, he's still carrying that team, and the Canadians haven't had a player like that. And when you look into the future, who is that guy going to be? Hoping maybe it's Cole Caulfield, right? He's the guy that they signed for all that money, hoping he's going to be the big goal scorer and electrifying guy, and it's not working for him this year. I really wonder how much of that is the shoulder surgery, how just getting used to having like a new shoulder, and maybe it doesn't feel the same, and maybe he's not getting the same zip on the puck that he had before, and you hope that, maybe next year it'll be better and he'll come back. He's still getting tons of shots on goal. They're just not going in. So like, who is moving forward? Who's going to be the guy who carries the Canadians? Nick Suzuki's a captain and solid 200-foot player, little less than a point a game. He's not that level that's just going to carry a team, right? And they don't have that guy, and maybe one of them will come out of the previous drafts or an upcoming draft or through a trade, but they need that guy. I think they really need that one star guy to help carry this team.
So that's perfectly leads into my question, because of the way I phrased it that I wrote down, is forget superstars, because I think it's pretty clear the Canadians don't have bona fide superstars on their roster. But how many primary players do the Canadians have? And what I mean by that is, how many players do they have that make other players better, that they could do it on their own, not necessarily light up the world, but they don't need, the excuse of like, Kirby Dach's injured, so that's going to dip into this guy's production. Like, how many primary players do they have? And I'm not convinced, at least on offense, I'm not convinced, you could maybe make the case for Nick Suzuki, but he's not really showing it this year.
No, and Nick Suzuki we were talking about David Savard. If he's on a Stanley Cup contending team, he's like a third pairing defenseman. Nick Suzuki on a Stanley Cup contending team is probably your number 2 center, maybe even number 3. Look at the Kings. Dubois is a third line center with the Kings. Suzuki's, I like Nick Suzuki. He's a good hockey player, solid 200-foot player, but he's not on a good team. Like I said, he's a second or third line center. It used to be, before all the injury problems with Brendan Gallagher, it used to be whatever line isn't working, put Gallagher on it and he'll fix it. And it worked for a while. They'd put him on and the way he would play. He still plays that same style, but age is catching up to him and injuries are catching up to him. He doesn't have that same impact. Sean Monahan, earlier this season when he was playing so well in that veteran line with Gallagher and Pearson, but then his game fell off. It's coming back a little bit more recently. I mean, he's a guy that can, he's not going to carry a team, but he's a guy that you could put on a line that wasn't playing well and he would sort of solidify it or get them going. But now, like, there's really, who is there? There really isn't anyone I can think of that put him with these guys and he'll get them going. Suzuki, they've moved them around. St. Louis split them up with Cole Caulfield and moved them to some other lines. And Suzuki's production is pretty steady. Like I said, he's just under a point per game type player. But they're missing that guy who's just, whatever line's not working, you put him with them and he gets them going. I don't think they really have a guy like that right now.
Yeah. And it's crazy because I was thinking about it today and I'm like, man, you could look like, would you call, when he was playing, would you call Patrice Bergeron a superstar? I wouldn't call him a superstar.
That's if he's not a superstar, he's a notch below. But he was like there's a lot of similarities with Nick Suzuki, but he produced more, right? He was more of produced more numbers offensively. But he did make the guys who played with him better, like so much better. And we're talking about Gallagher, and I think we talked about this in a previous podcast. Phil Danault made Gallagher better, and he made Thomas Tatar better. That was one of the best lines in the NHL, 5-on-5 for a long time. And Gallagher's struggling now, and Tatar's struggling now in Colorado. So you don't necessarily need to be that huge offensive player to make guys around you better. And I think Danault was able to do that here, and Bergeron definitely in Boston. He did that there. He might not have been the superstar level, but I think he helped the wingers playing with him who might have been stars become superstars, if that makes sense. I think it makes a lot of sense. Bump the guys he played with up another level.
Well, it makes a ton of sense because, before, Pasternak, Savard, Pasternak, Bergeron, and Marchand became the best line in the NHL for years. Marchand was a player. He was like Gallagher. You're so happy if he's on your team, but you hate him if he's not.
Yeah.
And he could put the puck in the net 30 times a year, no problem.
Yeah.
And then, Pasternak
Bergeron brought him to another level.
Exactly. Like, it's not really applicable to Pasternak because Pasternak is Pasternak, but this is, Bergeron, you can't do it without the ability, but Bergeron certainly played a role in Brad Marchand having a 100-point season.
Yeah. Oh, without a doubt. And, I heard Ken Hughes on one of the other Sick podcasts recently, and he was talking about, he was Bergeron's agent, and he said the thing that really impressed him about Bergeron at a young age is most young guys come into the NHL, and it's like they're worried about themselves, right? They're more worried about themselves, like, can I keep a job? Can I move up on a line? And then later in their career, they start thinking about team. Whereas with Bergeron, right from the first day he was at the Bruins, he was thinking team. Like it wasn't about how many points am I going to get? Am I going to get a new contract? Am I going to get sent down? Am I going to do this? It was all about how can I help this team? And that's a rarity to see in a young guy, as Ken Hughes said. So that was sort of Bergeron's thing, right? He was a great individual player, but he was all about team, and he made his teammates a lot better, those around him, especially the ones playing on his line.
And that's the thing, like maybe that guy, again, not to the level, like again, everyone has to remember, everyone who's listening and watching has to remember how I phrased the initial question, which is not do the Canadians have a superstar, but do they have any primary players? And I think the case could be made that, with the small sample size that we saw, be it small, but you could cautiously call Kirby Dach a primary player. I think so. Like he's
very cautiously because there's not that much of a sample size, right?
Right. But when he was, when he finally broke out, let's say, and he was on the puck, like that's dominant play you saw.
Yeah, you couldn't get the puck off. He could control the pace of the game, and not a lot of guys can do that, right? He could carry the puck over the blue line, hang on to it, give players time to find open space, get into scoring positions, definitely. But it was such a small sample size with him, and moving forward, that's a serious knee injury that he had. Like coming back from that, I know you're a huge football guy. Football, that's more of a football injury than a hockey injury.
Yeah,
the ACL and that's a hard injury to come back from. Guys aren't the same when they come back. I don't think you're ever 100% what you were before after coming back from that kind of major knee surgery. So it'll be interesting to see what Kirby Dach is like when he comes back next year. And we're talking about Cole Caulfield with his shoulder surgery. He hasn't been the same. Is it the shoulder surgery? Is it whatever? Looking for answers now why he can't put the puck in there when he's still getting tons of shots. And maybe that's it. Maybe the shoulder just isn't as strong as it was, and he's not getting the same zip on the puck, or he just doesn't feel as comfortable with it.
With regards to the knee, at least, I could say, like, there's so many examples of it because it happens all the time, as unfortunate as it is in the NFL. Like, there's a player, it's funny, I was listening to a podcast on what the first round of fantasy should look like next year, and they mentioned this player that I had drafted this year. He was coming off a torn ACL that he had last year. Don't want to say he was underwhelming, but, like, he had to sit out the first couple games of the season or like have a limited role. And you don't very often get healthy in the middle of a season. It's almost impossible to get healthy while playing. So it really does beg the question of what the Canadians, when they get to this point, hopefully it doesn't. And Kirby Dach makes a full recovery by the time he's supposed to. But if that knee is not fully healthy, it's going to be a tough year for Kirby Dach because, it's not going to get more healthy as the year goes on. Like once you're in the season, you're in the mix. It's not going to get more healthy. And, you're already starting a beat behind everyone else at that point because they're already in the middle of their season. So it's going to be, it might not be so easy.
It's like a 12-month recovery also, period. So that means, like, is he going to be ready for training camp next season? Maybe not. No, we're going to see. And I really feel for Kirby because, you know, in the press box, intermissions, when we head back to the lounge, we walk right past the part of the press box where the injured players all sit. And you see Kirby there like every game, and it's got to just killing him. You know, 2 games into the season, this happened to him. 2 games. So he's got, you know, I see him sitting there with the other guys, and I feel for him. I mean, we saw at least he's not on crutches anymore. He was on crutches the first few times he saw him there. Now he's walking, but it's got to be mentally, it's just got to be so hard for him, especially as you know, we were saying so much promise last season before he was hurt. And then he comes back this season and he looks great. Now he's hurt again, and he was hurt when he was in Chicago with the broken hand. He's had a really rough go of it with injuries, and it's going to be really interesting to see, as I said, what his limitations might be because of that injury when he comes back next season. And will he even be ready to start the beginning of next season? And if he's not, then you're really starting behind the 8 ball if he doesn't have a full training camp and whatnot.
And now, you know, this injury shows Canadiens fans rebuilds are not, as we said last week, they are not automatic. A lot of things can happen in the NHL. Things change week to week, day to day. You know, feels like last week we were talking about, I can't even remember because it's, you know,
like the Ottawa Senators.
Well, that's it.
Every year, the Ottawa Senators, this is the year they're going to, you know, and every year they disappoint. And the Buffalo Sabres, the same thing. I think I've said to you in one of the previous podcasts, one of the things you hope if you're a Canadiens fan, they've been so unlucky with injuries. Like, it's crazy how unlucky they've been with injuries. That you hope that maybe when they are further on in this rebuild and they are ready to be a legitimate playoff team, the odds might finally turn in their favor and they have a season where nobody's hurt or they don't have any major injuries. But I mean, it's ridiculous. Just not just the amount of injuries, but the amount of serious injuries that they've had. You know, Tanner Pearson, his career almost ends because of that broken left hand he had in Vancouver and the complications with surgeries. He comes back and he breaks the hand again. You know, it's nuts.
Insane. Yeah, it's insane. And you know what? I hope for the Canadiens' sake that is the case, and for fans' sake, because, you know, you just like even think back to, you know, it goes even before they really bottomed out in the season that Marc Bergevin was fired. You look at them in the Cup run, like Tampa Bay looked like they were fresh as daisies, you know, and afterwards you find out, like, you know, Jeff Petrie's knee was mangled.
Shea Weber was basically Shea Weber
was a shell of himself. Carey Price and like all these guys, they were just shells of themselves. Like, you really got to wonder, like, when is this going to turn? Because it got the spotlight after that Cup run was the injury trouble, but really it started in those playoffs. Yeah,
it did. And what Shea Weber was able to do was remarkable. What Carey Price was able to do was remarkable with his knee falling apart the way it was. And, you know, Brendan Gallagher, the injuries he's had during playoff runs. And that's one of the things that it frustrates me when people are so critical of Brendan Gallagher now. The reason he's so beaten up is because of the way he played for the Canadiens. Like, he could have taken it easy and not gone to the net as hard as he did and slacked off a little bit, taking a night off here and there, and he'd probably be a lot more healthy right now than he is. But he gave everything he had every single shift he played, and it took a toll on him. It took a physical toll on him. So you can say he's not producing the way he should be or could be, and, you know, no goals in 15 games isn't good. But the effort level is always there, and it always has been there. And the reason his body is so banged up is because of the way he played. And it is what it is, as the players like to say. And yes, he is overpaid now with the contract he has, but he was underpaid in his previous contract. And you know, Brendan Gallagher he's good. He's still playing the same style he did when he was scoring 30 goals. It's just part of it is puck luck, I guess. It's not going in the way it is, and part of it is just he's a little older, a little bit slower, and it's showing in his results.
You know, I wonder what the answer is for the Canadian struggles. All this to say, because it's obviously the easy one is get healthy. Well, they're not going to be healthy for a while, so What's next? I don't know what it is if you're Kent Hughes, because you don't want to, you got a lot of young promising guys in Laval. Do you really want to bring them up when people aren't really firing? It's not a negative environment.
It's not. But I mean, from a fan standpoint, like, how much longer are fans going to be patient even with the injuries? And I asked Jeff Molson this question at the end of last season. I had a one-on-one with him, and he said, like, he doesn't know. Like, that's the question. Like, how the Canes have never done a rebuild, right? Ever. It's never been a full rebuild. This is the first time it's happening. And how patient will fans be? They've been pretty patient so far. They booed the team off the ice after they got shut out in one race against LA. But since Marty St. Louis took over, they've been really exciting to watch. They were fun to watch. You knew Cole Caulfield was going to score. That was exciting for fans going to the Bell Center, but he's not scoring anymore. They're having problems scoring. It's not as exciting to watch as it was. So those are things that will lead to fans losing patience, right? If you're going there and watching a team get shut out or watching them get one goal, you pay a lot of money to go to a game at the Bell Center. It's not a cheap night out. You at least want to see them score, right? You want to see Cole Caulfield score. You want to see an exciting game. They got one against Pittsburgh, obviously, that long shootout. But there's been some games where, the LA game, an example, where they've just been dominated and not able to score. And moving forward, I think next season, near the midway point, around this point of the season, if things still aren't going that well, I think that's when we might see fans starting to lose patience as far as where this rebuild is going, whether that's fair or not. I think a full rebuild, you got to give it 5 years. This is year 2 of the full year rebuild. I don't see them being a playoff team. I didn't think they'd make the playoffs this year. They won't. I don't think they will next year either. But are fans, how much more patient are fans going to be? And fans pay a lot of money to go to the Bell Center. As I said, it's an expensive night out. So, if fans go there and they don't feel they're being entertained, they have the right to boo. And we've heard a few boos this year when things have been going bad.
Well, that's it. And they're gonna come. And it's at a certain point, effort level isn't good. It doesn't cut it anymore. That's just what all of it is about. People want to see goals. They want to see wins. They want to see those things. It's interesting because, do you kind of, insert some life into your team by bringing a guy in? And I was seeing this. Talk about losing patience. The Canadiens aren't even in the bottom 5 for the draft lottery.
Yeah, they're
not even in the bottom 5 yet. And already it's like they're like, oh, look at this guy, Macklin Celebrini, play Team Canada warm-ups, and they get blasted by U Sports. This guy's a nobody, and it's like, whoa, let's calm down here a little bit. It's U Sports.
It's U Sports. It's also it's boys playing against men. I mean, university guys are
4 years older than all these guys.
Yeah, boys playing against men in that case. I mean, the other thing with the Canes, so from an entertainment factor, you got a losing record at home, as I said. That's not good if you're a season ticket holder.
Yeah.
As I said, they're better on the road than they've been at home. So maybe that'll help them on this Christmas break.
I mean, I really hope so, because it's not looking good for them. I wonder what it's going to take, because naturally you would think that, it's all it takes is one, and you break out. I don't know. It's not as
easy. Anderson, we thought he finally got that one empty net goal. Okay, here we go. He's going to start scoring. He hasn't. That's the only goal he got still.
That's it. It's, a lot of people, I can make this equivalency. A lot of people were making fun of the Toronto Maple Leafs when they moved on to from the first round finally, and then they're acting like they won the Stanley Cup. Yeah. Well, you still got a lot of work to do. Yeah. Just because you score one goal, it doesn't mean the slump's over. You got a lot of work to do. Yeah. You got to keep doing that.
One empty net goal.
Yeah, well, that's it. And that's just for one player. There's a ton of players on this team that could use slump busters. And I don't know.
Anderson came out and talked to us after practice yesterday in the locker room, and he spent a good 10 minutes answering questions. Good on him, because it's not easy. It can't be easy for him. He's got to be killing on this and answering the same questions over and over. Why can't you score? What's going on? What are you doing wrong? What can you do more? And he handled it really well. He's handled it really well all season. But the mental. I mean, he was saying that earlier in the season, he would be going home and watching videos of the games and watching videos of his play. And now he's reached the point that when he goes home, he just doesn't do anything hockey. Like he's trying to total reverse, like take his mind totally off hockey when he's away from the rink and then go back to the rink the next day and then focus 100% on hockey. So he's trying everything to figure out what's going on and how he can get out of this. And I think what he's doing now is probably good because mentally to be focusing on it 24 hours a day and over analyzing video and everything else, if it didn't work up until this point, try something different. And that's what he's doing now. He said he's just trying to go home and just get away from hockey and think about other things and do other things and then show up at practice the next day and get back to work and hope he can get himself out of this.
And, it's a long ways away from getting to this point, but it's when he's handling it, like you say, he handled it really well. It's respect to him, but it's got to feel like a walk in the park, rather like compared to what he was answering when Dominic Ducharme was in charge. You got to, they're still having fun going to the rink.
He delivered what might have been the death blow. I mean, it was coming anyway. To Dominic Ducharme as coach when after that game, I guess it was against New Jersey when they got blown out, and he said it's no fun coming to the rink anymore. And I think that was the end of. The end was coming, but I think that's when Kent Hughes and Jeff Gorton said, okay, we got to do something now because we got young guys here. They at least have to be having fun coming to the rink. I don't think Josh Anderson's having fun coming to the rink right now. I think it's still but he's not hating it. If that
exactly, it's like he's not dreading. Oh my god, I gotta go to
work. Like it's not like I'm going to the rink, but it's like he's going there. Okay, I got to work. And yesterday after practice, he stayed out. They had. One of the nets tipped over in front of the other net, so there's just that top area to shoot at, and he was shooting puck after puck after puck after puck. So he's doing everything. He's doing everything he can. Like nobody wants to score a goal now more than Josh Anderson. I mean, he's doing everything he can to try and get there, and it's just not coming for him. But he's not alone. I mean, there's a lot of guys that. Jake Evans scored in the first game of the season. Then he went like 25 games without a goal before he got his second. Slavkovsky, if you go back to last season, he's got like 2 goals and it's got to be close to 40 games now. It's just not coming.
It's tough. It's tough for them. And like we said, upcoming opponents, not ones that generally speaking get scored on a whole lot, maybe other than Chicago. So. Yeah. Hey, crazier things have happened. Maybe we'll see some magic and some slump busters, but
we will get to see Connor Bedard in Chicago too. That'll be fun.
Well, that's it. And he's like really hit his stride. Like this guy, you want to talk about straight as advertised? Wow.
Habs picked no knock on Slavkovsky, but the Habs picked the wrong year to have the number 1 overall pick.
Oh yeah.
For Juraj Slavkovsky or Connor Bedard comes in. We're talking about. Juraj Slavkovsky, like babies, always better on the wall, always better at this, always getting better. He's showing a little bit more confidence. He's still got 2 goals. So Connor Bedard is 13 now or something like that.
Yeah, so you just throw him on the ice. They're not saying
all number 1 overall picks are created equal. That was the Canadians. The number 1 pick in a draft where there was no generational talent there, and that's bad luck.
Yeah, that's it. I mean, listen, they can only do what they've been doing for the past 2 years, and it's good to have that perspective, like you said, that it's only full year 2. Yeah, it's the full year 2 of it. Good to have. If
they did draft Connor Bedard, he probably would have had a knee injury or a broken hand or something.
Oh, well, that's there you go. You end up on the shelf up there with Kirby Dach. That's man, it's so bad.
You see them lined up there. I mean, last season it was a joke. At one point there was like 10 guys sitting up there. I'm not exaggerating too. I think there was like 10 guys sitting up there. Now there's like 5, I guess, 4 or 5. But one last now that David Savard's back. But you walk by, and last season I remember chuckling, like walking to go to the media lounge and just seeing this row of guys wearing really nice suits.
And it's like at one point those guys were probably close to outnumbering the media guys.
Yeah, it's
crazy.
It's true. It's nuts. It's a whole. It's like 10 guys lined up in a row, and it's funny because when the TV cameras go up there and you see they're always on their cell phones, I wonder what it must have been like before cell phones when guys were a healthy scratch. You didn't have that to distract you. You're just sort of sitting there.
You're like, oh my God, this is my team on the ice. Yeah. Anyways, Stu, thank you very much for joining. Hopefully the Canadians can turn it around starting tomorrow night against the New York Islanders. You, my friend, have yourself a great weekend.
You too. Enjoy this spring-like weather.
Yeah, I'll try, and I'll try to stay dry. Try to stay dry this weekend. How about that?
That's it. All right.
All right, have a good one, Stu. That was Stu Cowan. I'm Matt Ohayon. Let's bring the graphic up one more time if we can, because we mentioned tomorrow night's game. So tomorrow night at Playground, one of our many sponsors on the Sick Podcast, Tony is going to be hosting a live pregame podcast, and some members of the Sick team will be there at Playground for the grand opening gala. Join us for a fun-filled night. And like we say, Playground, listen, you're in the building of a place where a world record bad beat jackpot was one of $2 million. So who's to say that tomorrow night that can't happen again? And you're in the building, you might get a slice of that pie. So I think it's a good idea if you head on over to Playground if you don't already have your Saturday night plans filled. All right, that's it for me. Thank you very much for listening. We'll catch you next week.
And that's a wrap. Hope you don't miss us too much until next time. Follow the Sick Podcast with Tony Marinaro on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, Google Play, and Apple Podcasts. The Sick Podcast is brought to you by Energy Transportation Group, driven to be different. LaVie.tv, embrace your true nature. And Playground, your premier gaming destination.